All right, this is the help for the Wind Symphony trombone / baritone solo. So first couple things are the fact that this is in 3/4, and it is supposed to go fast because vivace means fast or lively, but we're going to take it down tempo because I want you guys to play it clean and correct versus fast. So the tempo we're going to be taking is going to be about 60 for now. And what we'll do is I will play one at 60 and one at 70, just so you can get a sense of the difference in those tempos. 60 beats per minute and then 70 beats per minute. So here we go. In this one, we have a couple notes we got to watch out for. We've got A naturals and E naturals, which are twos. For baritones, that'd also be second valve. And then we've got a high C and a high D. A high D for trombones is going to be a 1 or a 4. I'm going to use a number 1 because it's more accurate. And then watch out for the tenuto markings, which are those lines over or below the notes. Those mean to play the note full value. Here we go. First line.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
So the hardest part is going from that low C to the high D. So what I would do if I were you is I'd practice just that leap. So the low C to the high D. So you're basically going from a really loose buzz to really nice and centered and tight to get that high D. So just practice it a couple times. You'll get it eventually. So that's that line at 60 beats per minute. Now I'm going to go 70 just to give you a sense of a little bit faster.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So that's the first line. Okay, now we're going to the second line. Notes, rhythms, all pretty similar. So let's not worry about that. Let's just go for it. This is 60 beats per minute.
1, 2.
Our slower tempo.
1, 2, 3. 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, now let's go a little faster at 70 beats per minute.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3. 1, 2.
Okay, now we're on the third line. This one is tricky because it's got a lot of eighth notes. Oops. So we're going to start at 60 beats per minute like the other ones. And taking a look at the notes. Not too bad until we get to measure 4, and then there's a C sharp. C sharp is going to be slide position 2. And then going into the next measure, you've got the C natural again, which would then put it back to a 3. The B is going to be a B natural. So that is going to be 4th position. And then in the next measure, you have an E flat. A high E flat is a 3. And then it changes back to B flat, which is a 1. So let's just go through those eighth notes slow. So the 3 measures at the end, we're going to go through those nice and slow. If you're playing baritone, double check your fingering chart for these ones. So we are starting in the third to last measure in the third line. So right where you have the C natural and the B natural. So here we go. We're going to go dee da dee da dee da, like that slow. Ready and play. Oh, sorry. Ready and play. And then I played the B flat on the next line just to finish out that measure. So if you notice, in the first measure, it's a lot of me going 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, because again, a D is either 1 or 4. In this case, I think playing it as a 4 would be easier. Let's do it again, nice and slow. Ready and play. And sorry. Ready and play. So that's how it would be slow. Let's try playing it at the tempo it's written. Now you may have noticed in the second to last measure of this, where it goes from the C to the E flat, you stay in third position. So you have to make sure that you don't move your slide. So it stays in the same position, you just have to tighten your lips.
1, 2, 3.
So at this tempo, so a little faster.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Sorry, I messed up. Let's do it again.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. So, whenever you have something that's a little more tricky rhythm-wise and lots of notes, just take that section, work on it slower, so you get the right pattern down with your slide, and then you can speed it up. So let's go from the first bit of that line all through line 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. So that it's at 60 beats per minute. So make sure that when you're practicing this, you go at a tempo that you feel comfortable. I don't know if I can go 70, but I'm going to try.
1, 2, 3.
So this is line 3, a little faster at 70 beats per minute.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Go. Wait, 1,
3.
1, 2, 3. So you can notice I made a couple more mistakes at that tempo. If you are struggling with one section, when you perform this, make sure you play it at the tempo you can play the hardest part at a good speed. So if I can only play this at 60 with those eighth notes, do the whole thing at 60 beats per minute. Don't play the slower section faster and then slow down or sorry, the easier section slower, the easier section faster, and the harder section slower, because it doesn't tell us to change the tempo. I'd rather you play everything a little bit slower so that it's consistent and nice and clean, and then don't worry about the speed. Okay, we're on the fourth line now. The fourth line is not too bad. You gotta watch out for the third measure though. The third measure has a C sharp. The low C sharp is gonna be fifth position, an A natural, and then an E natural. So those leaps are kind of weird. So if I start on my low C sharp, then my A, and then my E. So just it's a lot of weird intervals. So just make sure when you're practicing, you work with just those notes and get those ones down. Everything else isn't so bad. So let's start at 60.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so let's play through the fourth line.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Okay, so the last two measures are kind of odd. They go. So you have to do that octave leap from the E to the E, which are both second position. And same thing like that big leap earlier in the piece, from the A to the B flat, you want to go and make sure you really buzz high to get that high E flat. I'm sorry, high E natural. Okay, let's do it one more time, and we'll attempt to go at 70.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Oops.
3.
Slide position.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2.
Sorry, I messed up the eighth notes 4 from the end of that line, but you get the right idea. All right, next part.
1.
Okay, we are on the fifth line, the second to last line. So it starts with a high F. That is high. So if you're struggling, just do your best. If you can't quite hit it, just move on. You could even take it down an octave if you wanted to. So if you wanted to go those first 3 and 4 notes, that's okay because it's written and that's a really high note. So if you need to go from the measure before, we have that octave leap. Playing it that way, or if you want to try the high note. It's up to you, but I would suggest that in the measure with the high G coming up, you take that down an octave. There's no way and no reason that you need to be playing that high right now. If you can hit it, great. But I think you're going to sound better if you keep it to the low G. So I'm going to play the first 3 measures of 27 using the lower option for the notes, including the first F. So it's going to go out like this. So that's how it would sound if I played those higher notes lower, the lower option. If I play them up high, I don't know if I can hit a high G. See? Yeah, it just doesn't sound good. I'm not a trombone player, so that's really, really high for me. I would take it down the octave. Because if you're going to go, trying to get the note out, it's going to sound bad. So let's go ahead and play through this one. That's really the hardest part, is those high notes in this line. So do the best you can. I'm going to play the lower version for both the high notes. So both the F and the G.
1, 2, 3.
Let's start at 60 beats per minute, though.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2.
So a lot of this is kind of like a scale. If you look at the eighth notes going down, they're going down stepwise, just like our scales do. So if you can relate your scales to the music you're playing, sometimes it makes it easier to know what the pitches sound like. Let's try it at 70 now.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3. 1, 2.
Okay, we're on the last line now. So the last line isn't too bad. It starts on a high D, which is first position, or fourth. I'm going to do it first. It's got those two new lines again on the second measure. And then looking at this, the second to last measure, you've got a weird rhythm. 1 and 2 and 1. So that's that deck the halls rhythm, the dotted rhythm. And you've got this little TR above. That means to trill, but I don't want you guys to trill. I just want you to kind of X that out, ignore that for now. It's not necessary, and it's not something that we're going to be doing in Wind Symphony. I just want you guys to, if you were playing this as a solo, we could explore that if you're performing for like solo ensemble. But for today and for your audition, just take it out. Ignore the little TR. All right, let's give it a try. We're going to start at 60 beats per minute first, and then we'll try 70. Okay, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Our starting note.
1, 3.
Yep, that's the starting note.
2, 3.
1, 2,
3. 1.
So you'll notice that a lot of the first part of this is from the very beginning of the solo. So finding parts that you've already practiced is going to make practice times a lot faster. All right, last line at 70 beats per minute.
3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3. 1, 2.
So that's how you play this. I'm going to play it once all the way through. And if I make a mistake, I'm just going to keep on going, which is exactly what I want you to do. Every day you play through this, play through it at least once with a recording, and don't stop even if you make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake and you keep on going, I'm not going to really listen to the mistake. I'm listening to what you're doing well. So if you recover from that mistake and keep on going, it's going to make me really kind of proud of you and know that you can just keep on moving through it. Even we're human. We make mistakes. It's okay. And art has many mistakes in it. And this is a musical art. So I'm going to actually take the whole thing at 60 beats per minute because I don't feel super confident with my eighth notes on the third line. And I want to make sure that I can do them to the best of my ability. And that's the hardest part. So I'm going to take it where I feel comfortable, even at the hardest part. When you practice this, I would suggest practicing once through with a metronome, which is this, what I'm using for my tempo, and then once through without, so that you get a good clean recording for later, and you can choose which one you want to use later. All right, here we go.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3. 2.
Now, the interesting thing, going slow makes it easier to play well, but going slow makes it tiring. So, do your best. It's okay to make mistakes. Even if you were to stop in the middle and take a breather and then continue, it's okay. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for what can you do well. Show off for me a little bit, and don't worry about the things you're still developing. I'm going to help you with that next year. Good luck. Happy practicing.